The most unsettling thing about Backrooms is not what lives in its corridors. It is the corridors themselves. Beige, fluorescent, repeating with the logic of a fever, littered with details that feel just wrong enough to register as alien without ever declaring themselves as such. Kane Parsons, adapting his own YouTube series and making his theatrical debut, understands something fundamental about dread. It does not require a monster, it requires a space that should not exist, and the suspicion that you might have been inside it before. That instinct, the creepiness of the familiar made infinite, is what makes Parsons the most interesting arrival in a growing wave of YouTubers crossing into feature filmmaking. The Philippou brothers brought handheld intensity with Talk to Me. Cory Barker brought the uncanny switch with Obsession. Parsons brings architecture. His camera moves through endless rooms that feel part impossible geometry, part corrupted video game level, and part childhood space reassembled wrong. The kind of environment your brain produces when it cannot decide whether it is dreaming or awake. The visual grammar is the film's primary language, and when Backrooms trusts it, the result is genuinely rattling. The narrative is simple. Clark is a struggling furniture store owner who stumbles into a liminal expanse hidden in the guts of his building and begins filming what he finds, partly to prove that it is real to his therapist, Kate.
I'm not saying I don't believe you.
Okay, I'm gonna come back here with proof.
And partly to convince himself that he's not lost his mind. The structure moves between traditional cinematography and first-person camera work, a hybrid approach that echoes the Blair Witch Project without feeling derivative. Nearly 3 decades later, the combination of shaky framing and the sound of someone trying to breathe quietly remains a ruthlessly efficient delivery system for discomfort. Parsons knows this and deploys it with precision rather than nostalgia. The film splits cleanly into 2 halves, and the first half is stronger. When Backrooms operates on atmosphere, turning corners slowly, holding silence, stretching scale until it feels wrong, it is difficult to look away. When it reaches for explanation, the grip loosens. Sudic script tethers the visual concept to ideas about recursive anxiety with enough restraint to avoid heaviness. And a recurring invocation of the never-ending story works as both self-aware wit and a genuine thematic tether that is childhood memory is the last handhold against a reality that refuses to hold still. Ejiofor and Rensve supply a gravity the script does not always earn on its own, their performances staying believable even as the narrative edges toward the absurd. For example, a late arrival creature risks pulling focus, though it fits the film's commitment to the logic of bad dreams over coherence. Backrooms is atmosphere-first filmmaking, and that will divide audiences. Some will want more mythology built around these spaces, others will want less. But Parsons operates at the intersection of unease and unreason, with a confidence that belies his age, and the film lingers, not because it answered anything, but because it made you feel certain that the room you're sitting in might have one too many rules. A disclosure before this goes any further. I went into Backrooms knowing nothing. No lore, no shorts, no deep dives. What follows is an interpretation of the film in isolation, disconnected from the mythology Parsons built on YouTube, because I think the theatrical version is telling a fundamentally different story. And this is going to come off as a huge compliment, but much like David Lynch's work, I think insisting on a single fixed reading feels counterproductive. The rooms can mean something different to everyone who walks into them, and this is what they meant to me. I believe Clark is not a man with any supernatural problem. I think he's a man who refuses to deal with himself. Every relationship in his life is shaped by resentment he will not name and fault that he will not claim. He compartmentalizes because it is easier than reckoning. Easier to say, I'm an architect, than to admit he abandoned that ambition long ago and built a life around servicing others as a way of never confronting his own failure. Paying for his wife's education, selling furniture he does not care about. These are not generosity. These are avoidance, him trying to put on a noble face. The backrooms in this reading are the architecture of that avoidance made literal. Every corridor is a path not taken. Every room is filled with the stuff we store rather than sort. Unspoken resentment, unexpressed emotion, problems folded and shelved. His therapist keeps telling him he is responsible for forging a new path, so he goes inward. But once inside his own mind, he does what he has always done, refusing to acknowledge that he is the source of his problems. He decides the answer is simply to stay, to exist inside the problem rather than solve it, and it kills him. The giant version of Clark that destroys him is every part of himself he refused to face. It is the version others see, the version his wife flinches from when Pirate Clark enters the room, and the anomaly of her retreats to the corner in fear. Mary fits the same pattern from the opposite direction. She coaches Clark through his issues while burying her own childhood trauma beneath the authority of self-help rhetoric. Rescuing him becomes another form of avoidance. Solve someone else's collapse, so you never have to look at your own. And when she enters the backrooms, she becomes a casualty of his unresolved damage, because that is precisely what happens when your life overlaps with someone who has never done the work. The image of endless floors existing simultaneously, every backroom stacked on top of every other, is the film's clearest visual statement that we are all coexisting inside our own unprocessed wreckage, and none of it is contained. The anomalies, the man in the striped shirt, the figure in the wheelchair, all of them could be people Clark pulled down with him, or simply others lost inside their own rooms the same way he is. The scientist's merry encounters feel like a mind reaching for a framework that lets her remain the helper rather than the patient. So, there may be a sequel that expands on the mythology in the future, but as a standalone piece, I think Backrooms can work as an allegory. A film about what happens when you furnish an entire interior life with things you refuse to open, and then wonder why you cannot find the door. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Please consider leaving a like if you enjoyed it, and share it with anyone else you think would enjoy it as well. Start a conversation by sharing your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribe if you're interested in watching more videos like this. Once again, thank you so much for watching.